Chapter 3. The Price of the Gift. John Anderson had begun to understand the weight of his gift. Each day brought new challenges as he balanced the intense visions with his desire to help those around him. The rescue of the woman's brother had reinforced his commitment, but it had also left him drained. The emotional toll was growing, and John knew he needed to find a way to manage the burden while continuing to fulfill his divine purpose. One morning, John woke with a sense of unease. He had been having trouble sleeping, the faces and emotions of those he helped lingering in his mind. As he got out of bed, he decided to take a walk to clear his head. The crisp morning air was refreshing, and he found solace in the quiet streets of his neighborhood. As he walked, he prayed silently, asking God for strength and wisdom. "Lord, please guide me. Show me how to use this gift without losing myself in the process. Help me to stay strong and faithful to your purpose." Feeling somewhat renewed, John headed to the community center. He greeted the regulars and helped set up for the day's activities. As he worked, he was approached by an older man named Frank, who had recently started coming to the center. "Morning, John," Frank said, his voice carrying a hint of weariness. "Got a minute?" "Sure. What's on your mind?" Frank hesitated before speaking. "I've been having a tough time lately. Lost my job a few months back, and things haven't been the same since. It's hard to stay positive, you know?" John placed a comforting hand on Frank's shoulder, and the vision came immediately. He saw Frank sitting alone in his apartment, surrounded by unopened bills and eviction notices. The despair and hopelessness were palpable. John took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "Frank, I'm really sorry you're going through this." He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. "Here, take this. It's not much, but it should help with some of those bills." Frank looked at the money, his eyes welling up with tears. "John, I can't accept this." John pressed the money into Frank's hand. "You can, and you will. We all need a little help sometimes. Consider it a loan if it makes you feel better, but don't worry about paying it back anytime soon." Frank nodded, his voice choked with emotion. "Thank you. You don't know how much this means to me." As the day went on, John continued to help where he could, but the visions were becoming more frequent and intense. Each touch revealed new struggles, new pain, and John felt himself growing more and more overwhelmed. He decided to take a break and went to a quiet room in the center to gather his thoughts. Kneeling down, he prayed once again. "Lord, I need your guidance. The weight of these visions is becoming too much to bear. Please, show me how to carry this burden without being consumed by it." Weeks went by and the news of John's abilities had spread rapidly, and soon, people began showing up at his doorstep, desperate for his help. Some were respectful, genuinely seeking guidance, but others were aggressive, demanding answers and cures. John's quiet life turned chaotic as he tried to balance helping people with maintaining his own sanity. One night, as John was returning home from the community center, he found a group of people waiting for him. They looked desperate, their faces filled with hope and fear. "John, please, you have to help us," a woman cried out. "My son is sick, and the doctors don't know what's wrong. Please, you have to see him." Before John could respond, another man stepped forward. "My wife is missing. I know you can find her. Please, you have to help me." John felt overwhelmed by the barrage of requests. He wanted to help, but the sheer volume was too much for one person to handle. He raised his hands, trying to calm the crowd. "I will do my best to help everyone, but I need you to be patient. I can't do this all at once." The crowd murmured in agreement, but John could see the desperation in their eyes. He knew he had to act quickly. He decided to prioritize the cases that seemed most urgent. John focused on the man's missing wife. When he touched the man's hand, he saw a vision of the woman submerged in a nearby lake, trapped in her car after having run off the road. The vision was harrowing, the water dark and cold, and John could feel the urgency of the situation. He knew he had to tell the husband, despite how difficult it would be. "Sir, I saw your wife. She's in her car, submerged in the lake off Route 9. We need to get there quickly." The man's face went pale, a mix of hope and dread filling his eyes. "Are you sure? How do you know?" John placed a reassuring hand on the man's shoulder. "I saw it clearly. We need to move fast." Together, they rushed to the location John had seen in his vision. The police and emergency services were already on their way. When they arrived, the sight of the car barely visible under the water sent a chill down John's spine. The rescue team acted quickly, and within minutes, they had pulled the car from the lake. The woman was found unconscious but miraculously alive. She was rushed to the hospital, where doctors worked to stabilize her condition. As the man watched his wife being taken away on a stretcher, he turned to John, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you. You saved her life." John nodded, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. "I'm glad she's safe. I'll keep praying for her recovery." The next morning, he visited the woman's son who was sick. As he touched the boy's hand, he saw a vision of the child being poisoned by something in their home. John quickly alerted the mother, and they discovered mold growing behind the walls of the boy's room. Removing the mold brought an immediate improvement in the boy's health. As days turned into weeks, John found himself involved in more intense situations. He prevented a robbery by warning a store owner of the impending danger, helped police catch a serial arsonist by identifying the suspect through his visions, and even saved a young girl from being abducted by alerting her parents just in time. The constant demands took a toll on John, both physically and emotionally. He was often exhausted, but the knowledge that he was making a difference kept him going. However, not everyone believed in his gift. Some people mocked him, calling him a fraud or accusing him of playing God. One afternoon, while walking through town, John was confronted by a group of skeptics. They surrounded him, their faces twisted with anger and disbelief. "You're nothing but a charlatan," one man shouted. "You're preying on people's fears and giving them false hope." John tried to remain calm. "I'm just trying to help those who need it. I don't ask for anything in return." Another man stepped forward, his eyes filled with disdain. "If you're so special, why don't you prove it? Tell us something about one of us right now." John hesitated, knowing that engaging with them could escalate the situation. But before he could respond, a voice from the crowd called out, "Leave him alone. He's helped so many people, and all you can do is tear him down." The crowd parted to reveal Sarah, the woman whose brother John had saved. She stood tall, her eyes blazing with anger. "John saved my brother's life. He's a good man, and he doesn't deserve this kind of treatment." The skeptics looked taken aback, and some of them began to disperse, muttering under their breath. Sarah approached John, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Don't let them get to you. You're doing God's work, and there are so many people who believe in you." John nodded, grateful for her support. "Thank you. It's just hard sometimes, you know?" She smiled warmly. "I know. But you're not alone in this. We're here for you." As John continued his journey, he realized that his gift was both a blessing and a burden. He would face challenges and skepticism, but he was determined to use his abilities to help those in need. With his faith, the support of his friends, and the strength he found in prayer, John knew he could overcome any obstacle. Guided by the divine purpose bestowed upon him, John Anderson embraced his gift, bringing light and hope into the lives of those who needed it most.